Good morning, class 8. Myself Ranjit Kumar. I welcome you all in the e-learning program of Modern English School, Kunti Nagar, Nevada. This is the fourth video lecture of the chapter Combustion and Flame. In last video, we have discussed about types of combustion: slow combustion, rapid combustion, and spontaneous combustion. In today's video, we are going to discuss about how do we control fire, means how to extinguish fire, so that we have to see in today's video. To understand these things, first foremost thing is that one number that should be in everyone's mind is the number of fire brigade, means the number that on which we have to call in case of fire accident. This number should be in everyone's mind. 101 is the number on which you will call in case of any fire accident. So what does, if you call this, then fire brigade will come. So fire brigade. What does this fire brigade does? Means when fire brigade comes, for example, unfortunately, if there is any accident or fire accident in your surrounding or the anywhere, and you called on this number, fire brigade will come. What they will do? They will pour water. They will pour water on fire. On fire. What does the water do? What is the use of water? Why they throw water? Story starts from here. You know, to fire continue burning, they required minimum temperature that we call ignition temperature. So the temperature of the substance which is burning should be more than the ignition temperature of that substance. If we are talking about a substance, for example, we are talking about paper, then the fire will continue burning until the temperature of paper is more than the ignition temperature. So, first and foremost thing is ignition temperature should be maintained. Then only fire will continue burning. Okay. First thing. Second thing, if fire is too heavy, big fire is there, and with the help of water you cannot control. For example, a fire which is spread on large area, and with the help of water, if you pour this side, the fire will continue in this side. So if the temperature is not controlled, means if the ignition temperature cannot be controlled, then next thing is supply of air. Means to fire to continue, air should be there. So air is required for burning, and last thing that is required is fuel, the substance which is burning. Okay. So when fire brigade pours water on the fire, what it does? It lowers the temperature of fuel. Fuel could be anything: plastic, rubber, paper, oil, or anything. So it lowers the temperature of the fuel below its ignition temperature. Okay. So as we know, as the temperature goes down, the ignition temperature, the fire will stop, means fire will extinguish. Moreover, during fire the heat will vaporize the water that you sprayed, means the water that the fire brigade is sprayed, that water will get vaporized, and water vapor forms a layer that will cut off the air supply. Okay, no problem till here. So what does the fire extinguisher do, means what does the fire brigade does. Okay, next is three essential substance required for fire. You know, ignition means ignition temperature, air and fuel. So three essential substance means essential requirement for fire is air, fuel and heat, means temperature. So these three is essential. So if you need to extinguish the fire, you have to cut off either one or more of these three requirements. Means you have to remove either one or two so that the fire will extinguished. Okay, so fire extinguisher cut off the air supply or bring down the temperature below ignition temperature or both. What does it means both? Means fire extinguisher either cut the air supply or bring down the temperature below ignition temperature, or it can do both. In case of water, if water vapor is formed, it is doing both the things. First, pouring water will lower the temperature, and water vapor formed, it will form a blanket, and that will result into cutting the air supply. Okay, so this thing is there. Okay, fire extinguisher. What is fire extinguisher? What does the fire extinguisher does is there. Okay. Okay. Next is, what is fire extinguisher? Very simple definition: device that is used to extinguish fire is called fire extinguisher. Fire extinguisher is of different types. Okay, the most common fire extinguisher is in our house is water. So most common fire extinguisher is water. Yes, water is the most common fire extinguisher, but it cannot be used every time. But can't be used in case of electric fire, or fire in oil. So is the most common extinguisher water. We can use this fire extinguisher for extinguishing paper, rubber, etc. So for these cases we can use this water for extinguishing the fire. But in case of electric fire and the fire in oil cannot be used water. Why? Because water is good conductor of electrical current, so may cause or may give shock. Okay, so it may give electric shock. First thing. Second thing, being lighter than water, oil will float on water. So oil will float on water. There is no case that it will cut off the air supply. Means water cannot be used in case of electrical fire or fire in oil. So what is the use? Means what is the thing that can be used is CO2 is the best fire extinguisher. Why? Question is why? Because it is a heavy gas and forms a blanket of CO2 on fire or flammable substance on fuel and result into cutting air supply. So what we have told? So most common fire extinguisher is water. CO2 is the best fire extinguisher because it is heavy gas and it forms a thick layer of CO2 that we call blanket of CO2 on the fire, on the fuel. Fuel means substance which is burning and result into cutting air supply. That will result into extinguishing of fire. So next is from where we get CO2. Like LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, that is a gas that is pressurized in a cylinder and it is stored in the form of liquid. So like LPG, CO2 can also be stored under high pressure in cylinders. Okay, so CO2 like LPG can be stored in cylinders at high pressure. So CO2 like LPG can be stored in cylinder at high pressure. When pressure is released, this CO2 will come out in the form of, it will come out in the form of gas. Okay. Next is one more thing, two chemicals, that is sodium bicarbonate and potassium bicarbonate. These two chemicals, means powder of these two chemicals, can also be used for getting CO2. So the dry powder of chemicals like sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate can be spread near fire because these chemicals give out CO2. So CO2 can be stored in the form of liquid, in the form of, can be stored in the form of liquid in cylinders at high pressure. Okay, thank you. Hope you understand. If anyone have any problem, you can ask in the